good afternoon. It's midday. Welcome to the news here on 3FM 92.7. Coming to you live from our studios at Adesawe Kanda here in Accra and across our numerous affiliates in the country. In Tamale, we're live on Kesmi 107.1 FM, and while we're live on W 93.5 and all around the world, we're streaming live on 3news.com. Coming up this afternoon, a minority unimpressed with government's economic policy for 2024, even as the administration looks to boost local production of finished goods. Also this afternoon, we subject the further scrutiny of the tax rebates handed over to electronic vehicle importers in the country. Meanwhile, the minority describes government's 220 million cedis allocated for victims of the Akosombo Dam spillage and flood disaster as inadequate. And later on in the bulletin, the final funeral rites for former First Lady Theresa Kufuor ongoing at the State House. We'll take you live there. Details of these and many more coming up shortly. Do stay. Many thanks for your time. Let's begin from here. Remember, we're also live streaming on 3news.com, and I am Emmanuel Samani. Now, the growth targets have been clearly outlined, which sticks out sorely for some economists. This afternoon, though, is how government will seek to shore up more than 50 billion cedis gaping hole in its expenditure plan. Government has projected total revenue for 2024 at 176.4 billion cedis, with a total anticipated expenditure standing as 226.7 billion cedis. This leaves some 50.3 billion cedis in deficit financing. Now, what are the new revenue measures, though, the government is seeking to use to raise to meet its revenue targets? Firstly, let's bring it down for you, and there's an introduction of a 5% VAT flat rate on all commercial properties to simplify administration. Well, there is also to review and expand environmental excise duty to cover plastic packaging, industrial and vehicle emissions to address plastic waste and solution. It also has to review the fees for stamp duties in 2024. Now, away from the new taxes, the government has been introducing tax reliefs as well. Here are some of the tax reliefs on pads with a zero VAT rate on locally produced sanitary pads. There's also going to be the import duty waivers on raw materials for local sanitary pads that are manufactured here in Ghana. Now, going on to the tax reliefs, there is also going to be zero rate of VAT on locally manufactured African prints for 2 more years. The import exemptions on agricultural machinery equipment and inputs, medical consumables, raw materials for pharmaceutical companies, as well as engaging the Ghana Medical Association on waivers for importation of vehicles. Now, the tax reliefs would also provide 15% cost of living allowance COLA for 6 months to cushion workers during economic challenges. Now, let's bring you some more fallouts from the tax reliefs on vehicles. Now, there's also going to be a waiver on import duties on electronic vehicles for public transportation for 8 years. Beyond that, there's also going to be waive import duties on knocked down electric vehicles for 8 years, and as well as extend zero rate of VAT on locally assembled vehicles for 2 more years. Take a listen to Finance Minister on the tax reliefs.
Speaker, further to the above, the following reliefs have been prioritized for implementation. To extend, Mr. Speaker, the zero rate of VAT on locally manufactured African prints for 2 more years. Mr. Speaker, to waive import duties on import of electric vehicles for public transportation for a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, to waive import duties on semi-knocked down and completely knocked down electric vehicles imported by registered EV assembly companies in Ghana for a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, to extend zero rate of VAT on locally assembled vehicles for 2 more years. Mr. Speaker, to zero rate VAT on locally produced sanitary pads. Mr. Speaker, to grant import duty waivers for raw materials for the local manufacture of sanitary pads. Mr. Speaker, to grant exemptions on the importation of agricultural machinery equipment and inputs and medical consumables, raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry. Mr. Speaker, a VAT flat rate of 5% to replace the 15% standard VAT rate on all commercial properties will be introduced to simplify administration.
Well, you heard the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta there speaking on the various tax exemptions there. But the minority, meanwhile, says they will not support government's quest to introduce some taxes worth 11 billion cedis. Here is Minority Leader Tuforson, who has been questioning why the minister failed to disclose the tax percentages in the budget.
The minister thought he's so smart that he doesn't want public attention to be on the taxes he has introduced from day one. But we have the eyes to decode it. He has introduced new taxes worth 11 billion Ghana cedis. Simple put, he's taken 11 billion from your pocket, from his pocket, and the pocket of your producers and businesses, including your company. That is what they have done. That is what they have done. Introduction of new taxes worth 11 billion. One, in the statement, look at paragraph, page 18 of his statement. He wrote English language and then added those taxes that they want to introduce. One, he's going to introduce vehicle emission tax. It's a luxury vehicle tax with a new name. With a new name. To create impression that they are using it, they are collecting it from vehicles that are producing higher emission. Aside that, they are also introducing other tax handles, like the tax stamp. Tax stamp. If you buy a land and you want to register, you have to go and pay tax stamp, stamp duty. They are increasing it. He failed to give us the rate. The devil is in the detail. But he can't run. The things will come to Parliament. Or the number of taxes he has introduced worth 11 billion Ghana cedis. But let me tell you something. The NDC minority will certainly not support
these tax
measures that intend to destroy livelihoods and businesses.
Well, you heard Tuforson, Dr. Kesela Tuforson there. Well, we're working the phone lines to speak with an economist, Dr. Assuming, for more on this. Well, I'm told that he's on the line now. He joins us via the phone. Doc, many thanks for your time. Now, 11 billion cedis, that's what's been stated as the sum government is seeking to raise. From where you sit, do you think this is feasible?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
I wanted to find out from you that 11 billion cedis stated by governments that trying to raise this figure. From where you sit as an economist, do you think this is feasible to raise 11 billion cedis from taxes alone?
So I'm not sure that. I read the part that says it's only 11 billion. I don't know whether you're referring to a specific tax, because the projected revenue for next year is around 186.
176.
Yes. So I don't know whether you are referring to the 11 billion as coming from a specific tax.
I'm talking about, yes, basically.
Well, so what it should tell us is that there are potentially some of the new revenue measures they are bringing. It will probably meant to raise more revenue. The other thing to understand is that some of the taxes that were introduced this year, we haven't really seen its full effect. I think by May, 3 new tax lines came on stream. We haven't really seen its full effect. So it's possible that there's a projection that we get more from that.
Right.
But we should understand that there are also new revenue measures that were mentioned in the budget. So all of those might be expected to contribute to that particular amount that we are talking about.
Right. Now, what do you also make of the minority's position saying that they will not accept it? Do you think it is the way to go?
Well, I think I'm not sure what what the basis is for saying that they will not accept it. I mean, they have the right to debate what they agree with or what they don't agree with in the whole budget. So I'm not sure that you say you won't accept collecting new revenues or you won't accept.
Right. So, Doc, I'll have you hold on and we'll take a listen to the Dr. Kaiser Ataforsen on the new taxes.
The minister thought he's so smart that he doesn't want public attention to be on the taxes he has introduced from day one. But we have the eyes to decode it. He has introduced new taxes worth 11 billion Ghana cedis. Simple put, he's taken 11 billion from your pocket, from his pocket, and the pocket of your producers and businesses, including your company. That is what they have done. That is what they have done. Introduction of new taxes worth 11 billion. One, in the statement, look at page 18 of his statement. He wrote English language and then added those taxes that they want to introduce. One, he's going to introduce vehicle emission tax. It's a luxury vehicle tax with a new name. With a new name. To create impression that they are using it, they are collecting it from vehicles that are producing higher emission. Aside that, they are also introducing other tax handles, like the tax stamp. Tax stamp. If you buy a land and you want to register, you have to go and pay tax stamp. Stamp duty. They are increasing it. He failed to give us the rate. The devil is in the detail. But he can't run. The things will come to Parliament.
Right. So those are some of the sentiments raised by Dr. Ataforsen, minority leader, who says that they will not accept it. So Doc, from where you sit, do you think that the points raised in this submission are ones to say that indeed we're not going to accept this budget?
Yeah. So first of all, those paragraphs, I think it's paragraphs 75 and 76 in the budget speech. Now, they don't give specific details for you to be able to say it's going to fetch 11 billion. I understand where the 11 billion is from. But when the full budget statement is posted, and as of right now, it has not been posted on the finance minister's website, because usually that contains more detail. The budget speech that was read was about 49 pages. The full budget itself with the tables and all the specifics will usually be almost 300 pages. So It is correct that the finance minister did indicate that they are going to expand the environmental excise duty to cover more vehicles and other plastic packaging. So that is absolutely true. It is in the statement that they are going to review that tax. It's not a new tax necessarily, but they say they are going to extend the tax to cover the new thing. So that is correct. And then secondly, the Stamp Duty Act. It's also something that they say they are going to review. It didn't actually say that they are going to increase it. Right. But you can infer that those things are coming. So it is correct that new tax handles are coming on board. There's no two ways about that. New tax measures to raise more tax revenue are in the budget.
Right.
But as to whether it's going to collect 11 billion, I don't know where that particular amount came from, because that number is not stated and the tables are not the budget speech that we have.
Right. Finally, before I let you go, Doc, do you think this is the budget we need at this particular point in time?
I will say not really. I think what I expected this budget to do, the biggest thing I expected this budget to do, is to give us a clear sense of what our long-term strategy will be beyond the IMF. Now, in some sense have been said that, we want to encourage, discourage imports and then encourage domestic production, especially agriculture. But we have to understand that these things were also in last year's budget, and we haven't seen much specific things happening. So what I would have expected is that we would have a lot more specifics about what the long-term strategy is in terms of what will actually happen beyond the IMF. So for me, this budget is more like what we've seen in the last couple of budgets. So I don't really see any departure from the direction that we've been going in the last couple of years. That is, for me, that was the most disappointing thing.
I want to thank you so much for your time. Dr. Patrick Asuman is an economist speaking to us there. Well, let's still stay on the budget, because on the relief for importation of electric vehicles, spare part dealers are Atoboso have raised concerns already about the aspects of that budget. Well, how will, this important tax rebate for importers? My colleague George Quaining is on that electric vehicle charging center, picking up the views on the back of that tax relief, and he joins us on phone for more. George, many thanks for your time. What's been the reaction to this tax rebate?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Samani. And like you rightly said, we are bringing reactions on the 2024 budget. And yesterday, it was captured that government really wants to go heavy with EVs. And what that means is there is a policy that is in place, but it is at the draft stage. That is the National Electric Vehicle Policy. And that is actually going to define the operational guidelines for us to go upscale with electric vehicles. But if you look across the country, if you really want to count electric charging ports, there are not enough of them. What I know in Accra is there's one here at Kokomleme and another one at 37. The one at Kokomleme is even for, motorbikes. So the question is, if the implementation of the budget takes effect, that's 2024, it means that people that are willing to, import these vehicles for public transportation can do so. But do we have these charging ports available? How many do we have? And so it begs the question whether we are ready as a country to go heavy on that. And also, are people willing to buy? Because these vehicles are very expensive. Like
right. So George, I just want to find out from you, have you been able to interact with some of these individuals who own electric vehicles, those who import, etc.?
I just engaged some of the agents here who have this, charging ports, and they are saying they feel there should have been that creation, or government should have created a lot of these ports, advantage points, before even going heavy or even declaring that very thing in the budget. At least there should be enough in the country before mentioning that in the budget. These are their concerns as it stands.
Right, but don't they see this as an incentive, a business opportunity, if you like?
Yeah, they do, because with 8 years, it's a great thing just to, waive 8 years import duties. It's a good thing. They are lauding that from government, but we should put the systems in place to, aid that very transition. That's what they are saying. The needful needs to be done before, I
want to thank you so much for your time. You heard my colleague George Quaining speaking to us there. Let's bring you some more stories this afternoon. And President Akufo-Addo has said it doesn't matter where an individual comes from or his religious affiliation when choosing who leads the country. Addo expects the Ghanaian voter to consider competence over anything when voting. He was speaking at the commissioning of a community library and technological hub at Bantama in Kumasi, whilst commending the Member of Parliament for Bantama, Francis Senso-Boakye, for serving well. The President also asked the people of the area to retain him even before the MPP parliamentary primaries to choose a candidate for the party. There's more in this following report.
Ghana, maybe a free nyanu ne here. So somewhere nyanu so ne here. The here and the war kumamu.
Here in Ghana, where you come from, nor your religious belief is not necessary. What is more important is what you are capable of when handed a leadership position. No one should allow himself to be deceived when voting.
Whilst commending the Member of Parliament for Bantama, Francis Senso-Boakye, for serving well, the President also asked the people of the area to retain him, even before the MPP parliamentary primaries, to choose a candidate for the party.
I will be very sad if the people of Bantama do not retain Asenso as their Member of Parliament. He should be allowed to continue to finish what he has started.
The library and technology hub is expected to improve reading and computer skills of all school-going children in and around Bantama. Francis Senso-Boakye said his vision is to provide such a facility to all communities.
They making sure say community community library and technology hub so that they are
For as long as I'm a Member of Parliament for this area, I will ensure every community has a library and a technology hub to aid in education of the children. This facility is named after the President Akufo-Addo for his commitment towards quality education.
In the area of education,
Right, let's take you back to the budget here in Accra. And another tax relief provided to local industry was handed to local sanitary pad manufacturers. On Wednesday, the coalition of groups pushing for the scraping of taxes on sanitary items besieged Parliament ahead of the budget presentation. Now, how pleased are they of the government announcement? My colleague Grace Ajiman has been finding out the answers for us and joins us on phone for more. Grace, many thanks for your time. What's been the reaction to the zeroing of import charges on raw materials and zero VAT on these items?
These manufacturers and producers are very excited because they tell me their number one challenge as local producers or manufacturers is the amount of importation tax that they pay. So one of them is currently with me here. Her name is Sandra Boatre. She is with the Inspire Ghana Group. They are producers of reusable materials, and she'll tell me how excited they are, what this means. And tell us what this announcement by the minister means to you as a local manufacturer.
Thank you so much for having me. This is the biggest news we have heard. It's a significant win for us as producers, and we are really, really excited. Why are we excited? Because our major challenge is the taxes associated importation of our raw materials. It is very, very expensive prior to this news to import raw materials to make our reusable parts. I remember the last consignment we brought into the country, we had to pay almost 50,000 cedis. That is almost double the price of the materials themselves. And currently with this news, what it means is that we have a waiver on the raw materials importation itself. And then as a local production company, we also are subjected to zero taxes. What better news could be than this? We are really, really excited. And by this, we will make sanitary pads affordable to all women and girls in Ghana. And our goal as of CSOs of ending period poverty will materialize.
So you heard it from Sandra. Their goal to ending period poverty will materialize with the announcement by the finance minister.
I want to thank you so much for your time, my colleague Grace Ajiman, bringing us updates there. Well, let's cross over to the northern part of the country for some more reactions there.
It's interesting to view. Someone who has been working a lot with women and young girls in rural communities, and the concern about the tax on the sanitary pads. It was quite relieving to hear that there was 0% VAT on the pads. And what impressed me more was that there was some sort of cushioning for the local manufacturing industries, because for some of us, the concern is that yes, you may be having a takeoff of the VAT, but if the industries are not powered enough to be able to do the production and then ensure that there's access, then we'll still be going back to the same problem. I'm trying to really figure out whether the importation of some of the materials that will be used to make these parts would still have the
There was something that was in my mind that I was expecting to hear, because female participation on leadership position, in fact, is very low and is due to financial problems. Simple because when we contest with the men use money to influence the public to elect them as leaders. Meanwhile, maybe if a female be a leader, the effort or the support that getting for the entire community and even the region as whole.
Well, from the northern region, let's cross over now to the Ashanti region, where our man on the ground, Ibrahim Abubakar, is standing by with reactions on that budget statement. Ibrahim, many thanks for your time. Now, we know that a number of infrastructure projects were announced by the finance minister, particularly that 40-year interchange at Swami and the commencement of the National Affordable Housing Project. How are people reacting to this news?
Well, Samani, you could clearly see disappointment in the face of people. They wanted to see allocation of funds for completion of more projects. Fine, the 4th-year project, Swami Interchange, sword was cut, work was commenced. But currently, you go there and you find nothing going on at the project site. So people do not exactly know what the finance minister is talking about. But we have issues of
We lost our Ashanti regional reporter there, Ibrahim Abubakar, trying to reconnect and bring the conversation right here. Let's bring you some more stories now. And the trial of minority leader Dr. Kaysel Atuforsen is resuming this afternoon at an Accra High Court. He's accused of causing financial loss to the state to the tune of 2.3 million euros in the purchase of ambulances. I will try and reconnect to my colleague Lord Duasari for more on this. When we get him, we'll bring you that conversation right here. There's some more news this afternoon now, and the Domahini and president of the Bono Regional House of Chiefs, Osajifo Osiadeyo, Dr. Ajiman Bedu II, has threatened to take legal action for a thorough interrogation of the National Health Insurance Scheme, NHIS fund, and its disbursement. The traditional ruler is concerned about the failure by the Finance Ministry to timely disburse National Health Insurance levy receipts to Insurance Authority. This, he says, is affecting the scheme and threatens its sustainability. Osajifo Osiadeyo Ajiman Bedu II made the statement when he chaired the 3rd Annual General Conference of the Private Health Facilities Association of Ghana at Sunyani.
Sikan TIF for National Health Insurance, and yes, Kaketwa. Na sa sika no bejichi na nkura. Emrash kiti se esese bede ko ba bia esese bede ko. Esese bede kokoma se Ministry of Health and National Health Insurance for na Dr. Okoboy. Ohwe na odi ko ba bia na bede ko ba bia eno be ma mpuntu ebeba ya pom apomuden adwuma no ho. Na nhwehwemu kire se no kurani se sika onyede onko kura kaneno senya no yese onko be 70 be 50% si say the oya ko 70% kura onko ana na oboso men ho ahia ne na yewra regional minister wo ha ade a si tro mesre abane they say sa National Health Insurance tax Ghana for their tax bia Ghana ni tua okoto sabio okosto kra kokotua bibia bejeje ne kakran no ye besre ma benfa bensa nkomo benfa ma National Health Insurance National Health Insurance intimi tua emfa ma sabio private providers but the mamba eno ne bema.
Well, before we go, a state funeral for late former First Lady Theresa Kufuor is underway at the forecourt of the State House in Accra. The former First Lady died at her home in Peduasi, surrounded by her family on Sunday, October 1, at the age of 87. Her final funeral rites will be performed at Heroes Park in Kumasi on Saturday, November 18. We'll bring you details of all of that funeral right here on 3FM 92.7. And that's all time allowed here on 3FM 92.7. You can find more news when you log on to our websites. It's 3news.com. I am Emmanuel Samani. Take care of yourself, be well, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Accra gets busy on this frequency.
Hello, good afternoon. It's time now for Business Daily. Coming up, importers and exporters express discontent with 2024 budget, citing unmet calls to scrap some taxes as business hope dims.
The extension is now becoming habitual for government that tax that is or sunset clauses that ought to have gone off the books. You still continue asking and continue accounting it as government revenue.
Meanwhile, government silence on e-levy in 2024 budget described as disappointing and setback to achieving cash-light economy. We'll hear from a tax expert.
If we are still insisting on e-levy and keeping them and people trying to avoid them, we are not only avoiding the payment of e-levy, it is also making it difficult for us to track the people who are doing some business.
And economist Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie sounds alarm on profiteering among traders as inflation declines to 35.2% from 38.1% recorded in September 2023.
We should be measured in the way we want to make profits out of the little. Because of small, maybe exchange rate effect, somebody can price the item maybe 20%, 30%.
I am Bismarck Hausa. These and other stories lined up for you. Stay with me. Thanks for your company. Now to our very first story. The Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana has expressed disappointment over the 2024 budget read by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. The president of the association, Samson Asaki Awingobet, believes the budget presents no hope to Ghanaians and the business community. The association argues that some taxes have outlived their intended purposes and ought to have been scrapped to bring some relief to businesses and the general public.
For us, we were expecting the government to listen to us when we call for total scrap of the COVID levy, so that at least that can give recipe to businesses, and businesses will also reduce the price of goods. If you should see an importer BOE, bill of entry, the tax bill, and you see the COVID levy percentage, the amount of money that person is paying, it will tell you, wow, is that it? That is how it is. And so it becomes a cost to us. We are also saying that the 2% special import levy that ought to have gone off the books since 2017, which government keeps on asking us or requesting for an extension. The extension is now becoming habitual for government that tax that is or sunset clauses that ought to have gone off the books. You still continue asking and continue accounting it as government revenue. We strongly believe that the 2% special import levy has lived beyond its lifespan, and it ought to go off the books, hence giving some kind of relief to the business community, and that could reflect on the pocket of Ghanaians.
Samson Asaki Awingobet is president of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Meanwhile, a tax expert has described as a huge disappointment to the business community and individuals government silence on the much anticipated review in e-levy. According to Yao Latte, who is also financial advisory partner at Deloitte Ghana, the electronic tax handle continues to pose as a setback to government's quest for a cash-light economy.
You go to the bank, you do transactions, and sometimes you are not even aware. Some of the transactions you do have got some form of implication. So someone has transferred something to you, to your account, electronic, and they say, we are withdrawing the cash. You're like, because it was transferred to you, it wasn't a cash deposit, but was transferred. There is a certain tax or levy or processing fee that you pay. And these are things that, it's an incentive. So in that case, instead of you transferring it to your account, you just meet me at some point, I give you cash, and then you go and use the money for whatever you want. So these are things that have created some distortion in our objective of achieving a cashless economy. So if we are still insisting on e-levy and keeping them and people trying to avoid them, we are not only avoiding the payment of e-levy, it is also making it difficult for us to track the people who are doing some business that we have not been able to track. So if you do a cashless economy, you can easily track people who are doing businesses and making transactions online. But where people are doing mainly cash transactions, you cannot even put them in the tax bracket.
Yao Latte is a financial advisory partner at Deloitte Ghana. Now an economist, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie has blamed the high cost of some food items on profiteering. Inflation for the month of October declined to 35.2% from 38.1% recorded in September this year. Meanwhile, food inflation is still on the high, recording 44.8%, while non-food inflation was 27.7%. It is against this backdrop that Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie is proposing the use of a weighing scale to control the situation.
So cost, they should find a way to reduce, because there's a big gap between the farm gate price and then the market price. There's such a big gap. Right. By the time the item gets to the market, it's already priced at them. And one thing, let me mention, one thing that we are doing to ourselves as Ghanaians, which is not good, is a profit sharing. We should be measured in the way we want to make profits out of the little. Because of small, maybe exchange rate effect, somebody can price the item, maybe 20%, 30%. And I recommend the weighing of food items on a scale. It's done in other countries. So if you want to buy tomatoes or yam or cassava, it's weighed on a scale. At least that one can help us to control the profiteering activities of our market men and women.
Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie is an economist. This is still Business Daily with me, Bismarck Ausa. Moving on, the Ghana Association of Banks anticipates a continued decline in the number of fraud cases involving bankers in the country over the coming years. The 2022 Banks, SDIs and PSPs fraud report revealed a decrease in staff involvement in fraud cases, dropping from 278 in 2021 to 188 in 2022. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of the launch of a new curriculum for industry players on ethics and professionalism by the Chartered Institute of Bankers Association, Chief Executive Johnny Wa expressed confidence that the declining trend will continue.
In staff involvement in fraud,
we've seen that reduction. We are monitoring the situation. Of course, what gets measured gets done. There's a lot more focus on the practices, the conduct, the staff conduct, and a lot more awareness. If a whole conference of the CIB has as its theme ethical standards, it tells you what the industry, the kind of premium the industry is placing on the subject matter. So that focus and drive and the awareness creation staff is more involved. And now you've seen that we just launched a certification program that every year, if you want to remain working in the banking system, you have to recertify yourself on the ethical standards. So you cannot say, I did not know. Ignorance will not be tolerated. And the more we do this, the more it gets into the DNA and the way we conduct our business on a daily basis. It will come without even, you do it without even knowing that you are doing this because you have gone through a certain set of skills through a training program, that every year you have to go through a process to recertify that you are up to the task.
That was Chief Executive of the Chartered Institute of Bankers Ghana, Johnny Wa. Still on financial sector fraud, and the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ugbamitete, has reiterated the importance of financial literacy to reduce the cases of Ponzi schemes in the country. Speaking to 3 Business, he indicated steps his outfit is taking in that regard, including the establishment of an investor protection fund.
I believe that financial literacy is one of the key things when it comes to participating in the securities industry or the financial sector for that matter. At the SEC, we say that an informed investor is a well-protected investor, because there are unfortunately a lot of fraudsters out there. You may hear of money doubling schemes, all kinds of schemes trying to say bring this or do this and we'll double your money. And unfortunately, people are falling prey, to these schemes. We need people to understand that, for financial sector, it's a regulated space. There are rules. And once we can get people to understand, when someone comes on the scene and offers something that is outside, the framework that, governs the financial industry, people can then identify that, no, this is not right. There is nothing mystical about securities industry. I will encourage the investing public or the general public to not to say that, oh, this is too technical, this is too complex. We'll try and break it down, but I believe that people must show interest and try to follow the information or the material that we'll put out there.
That was Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ogbami Tete, ending Business Daily with me, Bismarck Awusa. For more business stories, please log on to 3news.com. Thanks for your company.